How you doing, everyone? We got Paul Tierney here, who has got the record for running the Wainwrights, and he's going to answer a few questions for us. So, Paul, right? What's the longest run you'll do before an event? Is there a percentage rule on the distance? So, if you're going to do a 100-mile race, are you going to run 50 miles in training?
I certainly have done that, for a given race, but I wouldn't really have a rule on exact percentages. It would depend, I suppose, on the particular race or what it was. So let's just use, for example, like the Lakeland 100 is a 100-mile race in the lakes, and it's
which you've won.
Once out of about 7 attempts or something. But it is kind of, it suits me to do that. Do a long 50-mile run on that, because it's it just, I can start in Ambleside and I can run, say, the last 13 miles of the race and the first 36 miles of the race, and finish in Keswick, get on the bus and come back to Ambleside. So that just is and it's on the route, so it's quite specific, long run, and it's just a nice thing to do. But for other I don't think you need to do a 50-mile training run for a 100-mile race. I think maybe you could find another race to do in the build-up.
So treat a different race as a preparation.
Yeah, I think so, and because it's a bit more fun that way. I mean, it's quite hard to get out and do a 50-mile training run in preparation for 100-mile. And
so,
I don't think you necessarily need to. So.
Okay. Yeah. So a lot of people will do, if they do a marathon, then they're going to do like a 22-mile run in preparation, but you don't think of it the same way.
Not really, because I think for a marathon, because the distance is shorter, there's less stress on the body. So, like, training it's all about applying the right stress and not too much. And I think multiple very long runs, there's a place for it, but you have to balance it with recovery and everything else. So I think doing a 22-mile run for a marathon is perfectly acceptable for a lot of people, or a lot of the elite guys will be doing much more than that. They'll do a 30-mile long run, those top guys, no problem, and because that's the level they're at. But I think for me personally, I think preparing for a 100-mile race, there's other ways to do it. Actually, you could maybe do a double, get back-to-back long runs. So you do 5 or 6 hours one day, and then another 5 or 6 the next, or whatever way you want to break it down. And so that means then you're going into the second day probably glycogen depleted and muscular fatigue and soreness. So you're mimicking the conditions of the later part of a long race, without having to actually do 20 hours of running. You know what I mean? So it's another way of doing it, or pre-fatiguing your legs, maybe like doing something hard in the first hour, so maybe 3 hill reps in the first hour or something like that, and then running easy for the rest of the long run.
Okay.
And that sort of pre-fatigues the legs, give you some, again, deplete your glycogen stores, and but you can do it in a shorter period of time, therefore there's less risk of injury. So but it really would depend on, I suppose, the particular race. If you think about doing something very long in the Alps, or let's just say you're lucky enough to get out there and recce some of it, it might be that a 50-mile run in the Alps on the course you're doing could take 16-17 hours. So that's not really practical to do in training very often. Whereas if you base it on time and say, right, I'll do an 8-hour run, you might only cover 25-30 miles in the Alps. But that's still quite a good long training day. So mileage maybe on the trail certainly is difficult, because if it's on the road, you can run at whatever it is, 7-8 minute mile pace, so therefore I can cover 22 miles in a certain specific time, whereas on hilly trails and stuff, that long run 50-mile long run could take much longer than you anticipate. So it's better to do it on time, I think.
Okay.
Or at least I would do a lot of my training based on volume of time.
Time as opposed to distance.
Just easier to manage that way.
Okay, that's good. So injuries. How do you know when an injury is serious and you have to kind of stop, or when do you know when you can push through it?
Hear it tear. No, I think. Well, I think it takes a bit of it doing, like doing the sport for a long period of time. I think certainly when I started, I probably didn't know what was serious and what wasn't, and I probably thought everything was serious. And like if you have pain, you think, well, there's obviously something very wrong there. And
you get used to running through pain. Though.
Yeah, or you stop and you get.
Don't go.
Going. So don't say the word ST.
Don't say the word stop, otherwise it stops recording.
Right.
As you were.
Yeah. So when you would maybe not run through injuries because you thought they were more serious than they are, and like you learn over the course of years that sometimes pain. Like I'm not saying people should run through pain, but like sometimes you can run through certain niggles and injuries and they're not actually as bad as you might have first thought. And like now, I think the thinking on, say, like tendon injuries is, well, they need load. So actually rest doesn't always help or could be even counterproductive, So
just do a different form of exercise.
Yeah, or you may, like, say if something like plantar fasciitis or Achilles tendinopathy, certain types of Achilles tendinopathy might actually need still a little bit of that running stimulus, like whereas complete rest from it, given that the tendon needs load to recover, then well actually maybe it needs a bit of running involved as well. It just it might be that you need to lessen it a bit and do these other things to clear up the injury. But I think certainly personally I have had to go through a lot of these different injuries to know what I could and couldn't run through, so it is experience, but I mean best thing to do I suppose is to do a bit of reading up on stuff, but I think one thing that people maybe do a bit too often is they ask for help on a Facebook group, running group or whatever, and it's the last place you should really be going. Like, okay, there's people who are experienced on there, but why not ask a physio, pay the money to get a professional's help and advice, and they can actually physically look at the injury, and like someone going on and saying, I've got Achilles pain, what can I do? Well, if it's pain in the insertion of your Achilles, then that should be treated differently than pain further up your Achilles. It might not even be the Achilles. Like
it could be something higher up.
So if you don't go to someone who actually knows what they're doing, then you'll never know that anyway. And some guy on Facebook telling you to do this, that, or the other could be totally wrong. So like professional help, I think, is a good idea. And then you're just going to have to build up experience of maybe getting some of these injuries, and you'll slowly work out what way they should be dealt with.
Okay. So do you often get physio support on big events, and do they help guide your decisions?
Well, no, I wouldn't normally have. Like
to the Wainwrights, a big team with you.
Yeah, so that was brilliant, and like I did have a lot of help and a lot of support, particularly physio, and there was various different massage therapists, sports therapists, and physios throughout the week, different people who were available, who were able to come out that I just knew personally anyway. And Graham Theobald and Scout Adkin, so Scout's from this neck of, well, she's from Peebles originally, but she's now in the Lakes and she works with Graham in body rehab, and they were brilliant. Like Graham basically just said, Scout's on call this day, call her whenever you need. So the people helping me were able to call her and tell her, well, he'll be in such and such a place at 10 a.m. could you come? And she did, and he was the same. He slept in his van one night, to be up early to help me the next day. And like I would never have had that kind of support in my life before, but lots of people rode in behind the whole thing and gave me probably way more support than I deserved, and which
needed it at points, didn't you?
What?
You needed it.
Oh, yeah. Like, I mean, I had lots of various things go on that week that needed treatment, and even if it was just the kind of peace of mind of someone who I respected and who knew what they're talking about, telling me that's going to be all right, it's sore now, but we'll do this, that, and the other, and we'll improve it. Like, that was great for my head, So, normally on a normal race, no, I wouldn't have, unless like say doing Tour de Jance in the Alps, that they do have massage therapists and doctors and stuff at the big checkpoints, and definitely on occasion I did ask, like, oh, could I have a painkiller, or is there any chance of a quick massage or whatever. But I think going back to that race, I would probably actually not bother with, say, massage, because it didn't really, your legs are so wrecked in that race. I'm not sure it does much good at that point in time. It just wastes time, you know what I mean? So I think
I remember you wanted coffee in that race.
Well, because for some reason, like, I mean, Italy, they definitely like their coffee in Italy, and but at the big checkpoints they had this instant stuff that they just had in a big tub or something. Christ, it tasted really bad, and I put it in me plastic cup at the first aid station or something, and it had that taste in that cup for the rest of the thing. So I just didn't bother. And there was a couple of refuges where I asked them, could I have an espresso, like, out of the proper machine? And they were great. They just made me one, and it was really nice. But like, you don't expect to get instant stuff in Italy. So what did you ask me?
What question was that one? Physio support.
Oh yeah.
We digress.
So normally no, but for the Wainwrights I had great support.
Okay. Food. What works for you? Gels, real food?
For something very, very long, I think real food, as much of real food as I can get.
Along the lines of chips and curry sauce.
And stuff that's like high in calories and salty and just very tasty.
How do you find that? Because I find if I'm on a big event, I can never find somewhere that I can get access to that sort of stuff.
Yeah, like, well, in a race situation, I suppose you do have to just put up with whatever they have. Now, I definitely think if you're doing a race in the Alps, they tend to have a good selection of cheese, meat, bread, soup,
salty noodles.
So stuff that in a race like that you would crave. So I personally, there's not really too much that I wouldn't eat. So like, I don't think you can afford to be really, really picky.
Do you not get the point though where you've been taking something on and you just can't stomach it anymore?
Yeah, like if the race is quicker, like if it's a 1 day race or under a day, I think because that's
a quick race.
No, but like, well, what I mean is like, if it's multiple day, then you're going slow enough that you can actually digest the food you take in. Whereas if you're doing something that's so like a 100-mile race or something less than that, it's quite hard to eat full dinners or meals or enough to kind of keep you fueled without getting issues with your stomach. Like realistically, you're going to be under fueled for the duration of a race like that. But it's about finding the thing that tastes okay at the time, and not having too much of it as well. Like let your system digest it. Like keep small amounts regularly. I think works usually for me. But I've had loads of times where I've had bad stomach, and the Wainwrights was an example of that. Like I was hungry most of the time when I was eating, but my stomach.
But there would have been people there to help and cook you different things with it.
Yeah, like. So like when I get to the van at the end of a section, there'd be someone could like either text ahead or ring, or if they had reception, and ask for he's looking for chips or whatever. Yeah. Or just pasta, with a bit of sauce, and never anything too fancy or anything. Like it needed to taste well, but like go down fairly easy. And I have friends who have cafes and stuff in the lakes, and Rattlegill in Ambleside. I don't know who they gave it to or whatever, but there was a big plate of chili came out at one point, and baked potato, and that's great stuff. But like while running, I wouldn't have eaten that. It would have been at a point where I was stopped for 20 minutes or half an hour. So but real food where possible, and stuff like gels. I definitely would have gels in a short race. Like I did a race before Christmas, so it was like took just over 6 hours. In that race, I think I had gels and maybe a little bit of chocolate and jellies and stuff like that. I didn't really eat anything proper. So a couple of cubes of cheese or something. But I wouldn't eat
just some bursts of energy.
And as long as you're not overdoing that, and the race is short enough that you're not eating that for 20 hours. Like I think gels for 20 hours. You want to have a strong stomach to get through a race and not have a problem after eating that many gels. So,
Okay. You've got your own business coaching runners. Does that leave plenty of time for training?
Well, if I'm organised, then it should. It should leave enough time for training. But
you're not organised.
Well, I'm not always. I mean, it's hard actually because you set out at the start of the week what work you have, but I suppose the nature of that kind of work, you get a phone call or a text about someone's training or they've got an injury or they need to move stuff around, and that I suppose adds work, or you're reading through emails and you're trying to answer them as best you can, and so you know the minimum amount of work you have. You don't know what else is going to come in that week, so it's great. I really enjoy it, and I enjoy it more when I've got actual contact with the person in terms of either sat in front of me or talking
instead of
to
online stuff.
If it's just or whatever, that's you don't build the same relationship as if you're meeting them or you're at least talking to them, so and I really enjoy that, and I do a bit of sports massage as well and a little bit of technique coaching and stuff, but the bulk of it is online, and it does leave enough time. It's really good because if the weather's good now tomorrow, say, and I wanted to go out and do a long run, I could, as long as I come back and I do the work afterwards. It doesn't matter.
It's not as if you've got an appointment where they
unless I have made an appointment, but on a weekend I certainly wouldn't do that. So at least you can go and do your training, and as long as you get the work done, and you're not leaving someone without an answer to a question or whatever, then it works really well. But it doesn't always pan out smoothly, what I mean? It can take a bit longer. So
okay. Last one, fun fact, which I'm sure you know the answer. Did you know when you Google your name, a football referee comes up? What's that all about? Everyone knows running.
Well, what it's all about. I suppose there's a football referee who was named the same name as me. So
how come he's more famous than you?
Oh, right. Well, I guess because he referees in the Premier League. I think he referees in the Premier League now. But there was also a Paul Tierney who played reserve team football for Manchester United, and he's the same age as me. So when I was 18, 19 and he was on that reserve team, I saw, Paul Tierney plays for them, and there was a rodeo cowboy called Paul Tierney. That's how I found this out, because there's this referee, and someone made a Wikipedia page of me, right? But
put in the wrong info.
No. They put in because in Ireland hurling is big sport. It's like shinty over here, and but realistically it is a bigger sport in Ireland than shinty is here, because you have 80,000 people at a final. So it's a big sport, and so I suppose because I played a bit, on the team the highest team I could represent, and so when I was 20 or 19 or 20 I was on that team, and so maybe that's why someone decided to, because it was only about the bit of hurling I've done, and then people added bits about the running afterwards, and then Robbie Britton realised that you could edit it. If you've got a login or whatever, you can edit anyone's.
You can put anything on Wikipedia.
Yeah, so Robbie had it changed. It didn't last very long, but Robbie changed it to something about, my genitalia or something, I think. And it was there about half an hour, and someone took it away. So anyway, I did know that there's a Paul Tierney referee, and I've recently received text messages asking me why I didn't give a penalty, or why am I such an effing blind person, and I've had to kind of point them to the pictures that I put on Instagram and say, well, does it look like I referee? And then they say, oh right, sorry. And then I block him.
Excellent. Yeah. Okay, that's it.
Brilliant.
So perfect. Thanks for the chat.
Good laugh.
Yeah, good. Right. I'll let you try and turn it off.
Stop.